You buy a pair of $180 trainers on a $9 an hour wage, and you don't feel bad about it. Not even a little. Everyone watching this has either done exactly that or judged someone who did while wearing something that served the exact same purpose. Here's the part nobody tells you. That instinct doesn't disappear when you get rich. It goes quiet. And the quiet version is the most expensive one of all. By the end of this, you're going to look at your own spending completely differently, and you might not like what you see. Let's start at the bottom, because that's where this pattern is easiest to see. You're on minimum wage. Rent takes a third of your paycheck before you've spent a single pound. Groceries get counted, not chosen. But the things people can actually see on you, those you protect like your life depends on it. You wipe the trainers down with a damp cloth before you leave the house. You've got a screen protector on a phone that's already inside a case. You'll eat plain rice for a week straight to keep something on your body looking exactly like it did the day you bought it. Everyone loves to call this stupid. Broke kid with expensive trainers, bad with money, doesn't get it. It's not stupid, not even close. Think about what a stranger can actually see when they look at you. Not your bank balance, not your savings, not the version of you that you're quietly working toward. That's all invisible, locked away where nobody else gets to look. So when you want to say, "I'm not staying here," you've got exactly one channel that works. The logo, the visible thing. And because that's the only channel you've got, it has to be loud. An economist named Thorstein Veblen wrote about this over 100 years ago. He watched wealthy people burn money on useless, visible things and called it conspicuous consumption, spending whose entire job is to be seen happening. He thought it was a disease of the rich. He had it backwards. It starts at the bottom. It starts right here, in this version of you, standing a little taller because of $200 of stitched leather. But that volume can't hold. The logo starts shrinking the moment someone with real money walks into the room. Now jump forward. The salary just quadrupled. You've got an office now. A title under your name. A parking spot with a number painted on the concrete. The trainers are gone. You'd actually be a little embarrassed to be seen in them now. What's in the driveway instead is a leased car. 450 pounds a month. And you feel exactly how much lower and tighter it sits than anything you drove before. You move too. Not far in miles, far in postcode. To the part of town where the coffee shops have one-word names and the rent makes your stomach drop on the first of every month. You take one proper holiday a year and you photograph every single meal. Not because the food's that good, because the location tag is the entire point of the plate. The move here is quieter than the trainers, but it's identical underneath. You don't buy the things you actually want. You buy the things that say something to the specific people now standing next to you. The watch a colleague would clock and price in their head. The gym membership that costs 10 times more than the one down the road, because somebody at that gym might shake your hand one day and change your career. You think you've become more sophisticated. You haven't. You just swapped audiences. The version of you with the trainers was broadcasting to other people who could read trainers. This version is broadcasting to people who read postcodes and lease agreements and where someone spent August. Same transmission. New frequency, bigger antenna. And it's lonelier than the trainers ever were, because nobody at this level admits they're doing it. The guy down the corridor swears the watch was an investment. The woman who just moved in calls it just a shorter commute. Everyone's signaling at full volume, and everyone's pretending the signal is an accident. The bill for all of this is brutal. You earn 4 times what you used to, and somehow you're not 4 times safer. The lease, the rent, the holiday, the membership, they all scaled with the income on purpose, because the signal has to match the new room you walked into, or it doesn't count. You tell yourself this must be close to the top. That the people above you are doing all of this even harder. Louder cars, bigger logos, shinier everything. You're wrong. Let's go find them. Last time, we watched money climb from minimum wage to a leased car and a postcode that made your stomach drop. Now let's see what happens at the top. Skip ahead again. Net worth crosses 2 million. The flex doesn't grow from here. It starts to vanish completely. You're worth well over £2 million, and you're driving a 12-year-old car with a dent in the bumper you've never once thought about fixing. The watch on your wrist is plastic, the kind you replace the battery on yourself with a kitchen knife. Your house is genuinely nice, but it sits on a street nobody's heard of, tucked behind trees, the kind of place you'd drive past without a second glance. When people who knew you back at the leased car stage see the new car, something crosses their face. Confusion. A flicker of concern. Did something go wrong for you? Nothing went wrong. Something clicked. What you do with money now inverts the entire pattern. You spend enormously on the things nobody can see. The index funds, the kids' school fees paid up front in full, 8 months of expenses just sitting in cash like a held breath. And you spend almost nothing on the things people can see. You stopped because somewhere on the climb, you noticed something that genuinely unsettled you, and you couldn't shake it loose. The loud version of wealth, the badge, the logo, the shine. That's the dialect of someone who's still climbing. The car that screams money is the car of a person who needs you to hear it. And once you saw that clearly, you couldn't unsee it anywhere. 2 economists wrote a paper in 2002 with one of the best titles in the field, Too Cool for School? About something they called counter-signaling. The idea is almost rude in how simple it is. The genuinely skilled don't need to prove they're skilled. The middle has to prove it constantly, with everything they own. So the people at the very top start signaling by refusing to signal at all, and the refusal becomes the new badge. One only the other top players can even read. The 12-year-old car isn't a money decision anymore. It's a sentence. It just happens to be written in a language most people will never learn. And the strangest part is who it's actually written for. You're not transmitting to the whole world anymore. You're transmitting to the 4 or 5 people who'd actually understand what the plastic watch means. Everyone else's read on you stopped mattering the day their opinion stopped touching your life. Last time, we saw money go quiet at $2 million. A plastic watch, a 12-year-old car, nobody explaining anything. But there's still one rung above this. And at the very top, the silence gets so complete, it stops feeling like a strategy and starts feeling like a personality. One more jump. 5 million. The signal inverts all the way. You're worth £5 million, and you're wearing a plain white t-shirt that came in a 3-pack. You do the regular shop with a regular trolley. Your phone is 2 models old and cracked across one corner, and you genuinely cannot make yourself care. The people in your actual life, the ones standing at your tier, they know exactly what you have, because they have it too. And not one of you ever says a word about it out loud. The knowing is silent and total. 2 researchers named Stanley and Danko spent years interviewing actual millionaires, and what they found embarrassed almost everybody. The people with the most money were almost never the ones in the loudest cars. The flashy ones were usually leveraged up to their eyebrows, renting a tier they hadn't actually reached. The real wealth drove used, lived modestly, mowed its own lawn, and you'd walk right past it on the street without a flicker of recognition. The signal didn't shrink as you climbed, it flipped. At the bottom, loud meant I'm going somewhere. At the top, loud means insecurity, and quiet means arrived. Here's the part that sits a little uneasy once you really see it. That invisibility isn't humility. Don't let anyone sell you that softer story. It's the most exclusive signal that exists, because the only people who can decode it are the ones who already belong. You're not being modest. You're broadcasting on a frequency the bottom simply can't pick up. The plain t-shirt is the loudest thing you've ever worn. It just speaks to an audience of almost nobody. You spent your whole life learning how to be seen, and the final lesson was learning how to disappear on purpose. So come back to where we started. The same person who stood an inch taller in a 1-bedroom flat over $200 of trainers, that's the same person stepping out of a 10-year-old car in front of a £4 million house. Same instinct. Same engine running underneath the floor. A neighbor walks past and says something about the old car, a small dig dressed up as a joke. And you smile. You don't explain. You were never going to explain, because explaining would mean you needed them to know, and needing them to know is the one thing all that money finally bought you out of. The kid with the trainers and the millionaire in the plain t-shirt are doing the identical thing. They always were. The only difference is who they're talking to, and how many people got quietly cut out of the conversation on the way up. Here's the thread you'll keep pulling at long after this video ends. You think you'll stop signaling once you finally have enough. You won't. You'll just shrink the audience down to the handful of people who already see you, and you'll call the silence peace. It was never about the shoes. If this made you look at your own spending differently, tell me in the comments, what's the one thing you buy just to be seen?